have been able to demonstrate the value of a single, united, strong policy advocacy group on a number of issues. The backpacker tax issue late last year was a really important one for us, and an issue that got elevated the last week of Parliament. There was a number of factors that really magnified the issue in the public profile. It was in front pages of the paper and had Prime Minister quoting NFF and all of this sort of thing, which is in some ways what you want. We want agriculture to be at the front and centre of the public debate because we think it's a huge opportunities in the industry. So that was a really interesting process, but a win. At the end of the day, we navigated the political minefield to a certain extent and got a win for the agriculture sector. And it was hard work, and we brought in all of the expertise from within and around our family, and in fact externally. But it was a good win. We've had some other ones more recently. The beginning of this year, in Queensland, the Federal Defence Department was seeking to compulsorily acquire land for training purposes, and we worked with our partners AgForce in Queensland on that issue and really made sure the government knew that wasn't compulsory land acquisition wasn't in the interest of agriculture, and we got a win on that one. And more recently, the trust issue. ALP outlined their intention to tax trusts, and we made sure that farm trusts were exempt from that. So a couple of wins just to point out and talk to most recently.
Now, has that been a factor, do you think, in actually getting South Australian primary producers back into the NFF tent? Because that's the big news here at the Growing SA conference. You must be very pleased about that and to have that South Australian connection again.
I am. I'm genuinely, as I said in my address, I'm genuinely pleased and excited about the opportunity. I think we've been talking about it for a number of years, and I really do think it's going to be a win-win situation. It certainly will help the National Farmers Federation, as the name suggests. We're a national organisation, and to have the gap in South Australia, or the perceived gap that we had, was something we're really conscious of, and we've been talking to both Rob Kerrin and Jeff Power and Darren Arney and others to understand how we could bridge that gap, and we're delighted today, I've got to say, that we've been able to announce that they'll come back into the family.
And it is vital, isn't it, for anybody involved in agriculture to have the representation that can be brought to bear by both the state bodies and, in your case, the national body when it comes to issues that actually matter.
It is. I mean, the political environment and the public perceptions, a whole range of factors just make it increasingly important that we have a strong, clear, united, consistent voice on all of the things that we know are so important to farm businesses. So right from the high level things like trade and taxation down to everyday issues like feral pest management and NRM and land care and all of these sorts of things, land access. There's so many issues that we need to have a strong, clear voice on, and Primary Producers South Australia coming back into the family will allow us to enhance and amplify that voice.
And I'm interested to hear your language, really, Tony. I mean, you're talking about the NFF family and embracing everybody. Now, you're doing that with South Australia. That's great. Are there other gaps? Are there other areas around the country where you want to offer that same embrace?
Absolutely. As I said here today, Fiona Simpson, President, got voted in November last year, and both the board and myself and Fiona have really made it a mandate for us, a challenge for us to increase the partnership approach. And I do use the term family genuinely. We're like any normal family. We don't always get on, but we have that common bond that keeps us together and a common drive to make sure that agriculture prospers. So South Australia is, the Primary Producer South Australia coming back in is a great thing. We need to talk to our colleagues and friends and family in Tasmania and make sure that they, Tasmanian farmers and graziers, get them back in the tent. And also, we've been working with and talking with the horticulture industry. We know that that's such a huge growth industry. We do have horticulture representation at the NFF, but we want to enhance and deepen that and make that more comprehensive. And again, back to that concept of a single, united national voice to progress some of the issues that we see in the horticulture industry.
What can you now tell the South Australian members of the NFF family about your priorities as an organisation going forward that will make a difference here?
Well, I mean, there's so many issues, and that's one of the challenges with a national organisation is that I like to say we're a mile wide and an inch deep. There's so many issues that we can and do advocate on, but again, over the last 12 months, what we've sought to do is to consolidate that and really be clear on the issues that we do advocate for and that we do try and develop policies on. And there's no surprise, I mean, they're things like trade, infrastructure, natural resource management, things that pop up like the recent Murray-Darling Basin issues and concerns about that. It's just so important that we have representation from across the nation so we can get the outcome we want, and the outcome we need and want is the best policy and programs that will deliver prosperity, productivity and profitability for the farmers of Australia. So for the farmers in South Australia, what will it mean? It will mean they have a direct line of contact, sight and importantly contributions to advocacy in Canberra where the decisions get made.
You'll have some hot potatoes. I mean, water is one of them, and of course there's been furore about that recently with things that have been revealed through recent reporting activities. It'll be fraught though, won't it, for you as a national organisation to try and negotiate outcomes when you've got a state like this that is so hot under the collar about water issues, and then other states who have very different positions, I guess, and priorities.
Look, I don't underestimate the task for a second. We know it's complex. We know there's lots of not only emotion but perspectives. We've got members on both sides of the argument, and we hope that we've got a sensible centre, and that will be the objective for us. Is to, I suppose, twofold: make sure that we've got confidence in the plan, and that the plan and its commitment from the various state governments and the Commonwealth is maintained. That's the critical piece for us. Is sure there has been some allegations and some behaviour that needs to be addressed, or at the very least investigated. Let's have that. Let's let these inquiries that have been announced in the last week or so run their course, but let's not have people retreating into their corners because I think that's the worst thing for everyone. There is complexity, there's lots of issues, but the scenario where we see people pulling back from their commitment to the plan is in no one's interest, and it's certainly not in the interest of agriculture in Australia. So we need commitment to address any issues that pop up, and commitment to maintain the plan and get the plan implemented. It's taken too long for it to be compromised and for states and the Commonwealth to pull away from it. It's just too important.
Energy is another really big issue. This is the state, after all, where the lights go out. It again, very much a serious issue for South Australians. Where does it fit in your priorities at the national level with NFF, Tony?
Yeah, it's towards the top of the agenda, I've got to say. If it's not in the top three, then it's certainly in the top five. It is such a critical issue for, as you say, not only farmers in South Australia, but farmers right across the country. The energy costs and increases in energy prices, it's something I consistently hear about that is troubling and concerning, and I think probably along with the broader consumers in Australia, people don't understand or don't have an awareness of what is happening in the energy market. The transparency isn't there, so it's at the top of our priority list, and what we need to do is to make sure that the government uses the Finkel report that came out just a little while ago and give some certainty around what's happening in the energy market. So for us, our response to the Finkel review is let's keep it on the table, let's keep all options on the table, and let's encourage government and let's push government to make sure that they act on this report and not kick the can down the road for another decade and we have uncertainty and not enough transparency around energy prices. It's an opportunity to try and address the issue, and we need to take that opportunity. And what we've been doing, in just to finish off, is that we have been part of the debate. And I mentioned today that recently, a month or so ago, there was a COAG Environment Ministers meeting in Brisbane, and National Farmers Federation was one of 2 or 3 groups that got to sit in front of all of the environment ministers, federal and state, and inform them and make sure they understood what issues were facing farmers. So we had a couple of direct examples of increases in energy prices up to 300% and what that meant for farm businesses in rural and regional Australia. And that was a real opportunity. And again, going back to your point about what South Australian farmers might get, they get that chance to have their voice heard at the highest levels.
Tony Mahar, thanks for coming to South Australia to the Growing SA Conference and for being part of this Ag Communicators podcast.
Pleasure, Leigh. Thanks for having me.